Hello, everyone. My name is Aboli. I'm a UX consultant with over a decade of experience in user research and design. And I've been conducting design sprints for various clients, big and small. So I have good experience in on-location design sprints as well as remote design sprints uh, that I've conducted. Today I'm going to be talking about a little about what is a design sprint, what are the steps in a design sprint, as well as how you can go about setting up your first design sprint, for your team and for your project. Um, so before we get there, let's take a quick look at what actually is a design sprint. So design sprint is basically a process or a framework for teams of various sizes to come together to brainstorm and to solve design problems in between 1 to 5 days. So it's a total collaborative team effort, and there's a lot of creative brainstorming and ideation that happens in a design sprint. And the fun part about design sprint is that they can be held at a specific location, for example, a sprint room, or they can even be conducted remotely or online. So design sprints, they follow a process of taking up specific business challenges and user goals, and then finding solutions through design, prototyping, and testing ideas with customers. It's a team effort. So you need to have a base of the business goals as well as user goals or user pain points, and then you go about finding solutions for them. Another thing is that design sprints are useful in every stage of a project. So for example, you have a digital product where you're creating an entirely new product or a service. That is a good time to conduct a design sprint. Or then if you're redesigning an existing product, modernizing it or making it more user friendly, or for some other reasons, redesigning something, a digital product or a service, that is also a good time to conduct a design sprint. And another good time is when you are even adding new features to an existing product or a service. So all these three types of projects are very good, where you can have a design sprint and you'll really see the benefits that go into that. So design sprint is basically a framework where teams come together and brainstorm. Now, to proceed, what are the steps that happen in a typical design sprint? So design sprints, they are made up of, broadly speaking, they are made up of 6 steps. The first step is understanding. So as a team or as an individual, if you're doing some efforts individually and then asking the team to join in, the first step will always be understanding, where you're going to dig into the design problem. So what is it that we understand? We understand the background and what is the problem. For example, we dig into the design problem through research. It could be user research or competitive review. You review your competitors. Then you do some other strategy exercises which helps you understand the entire background of the problem that you're trying to solve. The next most important step 2 is to define. So what do you define? What are the key strategies and focus of your sprint? So for example, what is the actual problem that we are trying to solve? We try to frame these things into some kind of statements that will come to in this presentation. We'll come to them, but we try to define and frame the problem, so everything is crystal clear in front of us. The third step is very interesting, and that's the diverge step. That's where most of the people have a lot of fun getting into this stage. This is the stage where we rapidly develop as many solutions as possible for the problem that you see. So this can be done through ideation and brainstorming as a team, individually, and even sketching out some design solutions that would help solve the problem. This is a fun step. All steps are fun steps, but this one is really fun. Then step 4 is where you decide. You decide which of the ideas that you have come up with in the diverge stage is something that has merit and which you can take ahead and refine. So as a team, you critique and you choose the best ideas that you have. The 5th step is also a good one, where you actually go ahead and prototype something, or you build something which is not with code really, but like a high or low fidelity prototype, which is dirty. It can be done quickly and it can be shown to the users. So that's where everything comes in a very concrete stage where you can actually prototype your ideas. And the last step is where you validate. So you go back to your users and you show your prototype to them, conduct some user tests, and learn what works and what doesn't work in your prototype. So you may have some great ideas that you think are great, but when you go back to the users, you come to know that some of them will work really well and the others won't. So validate step is also extremely important. So this more or less sums up all the sprint steps that a typical full-blown sprint is going to have. But sprints again are highly flexible. You don't have to always go the 5-day sprint route where you have all your resources working or all the people on the team working for a full 5-day sprint. You can tweak the sprint process to focus only on ideation. So for example, if you take these 3 steps where you define, diverge, and decide, and really focus on the diverge and decide into a shorter design sprint, which could be a 1-day sprint or 2 half days spread over 2 half days, and you gather the team for that time, and you can only focus on ideation with key stakeholders. Even that can prove to be highly effective. So in this case, what do we do for like a shorter sprint where you only have a limited amount of time? What you can do is first and foremost focus only on ideation. Do the understand and define phases. So the first 2 steps are really important. So you can't really skip them, but you can do that as an individual, or if you're a UX practitioner or someone who has a good idea of the project, you can go around and gather insights from your team and then understand and define everything in advance of actually meeting up together. And then once the sprint is done, you can do the prototype and validate steps after the ideation session. So this is how you can crunch the timeline but still get good results from a sprint. So let's take a look at what happens in step 1, where you have to understand the background. So you need to understand 3 things in the understand step. Whether whoever you are, everybody on the team needs to have a good understanding of 3 things before you actually start the ideation part. The first one is business goals. So you need to understand why this project exists. What are the goals that we are trying to achieve out of this project? So maybe if you take an example of a mobile app for sales representatives, let's say the business goals could be something like include new features to our app that empower sales reps to close a deal. That could be a high-level business goal. So the first pillar I would say is business goal. The second one is user pain points, because users need to be at the center of everything. So we need to understand that for the same app, maybe the user pain points could be summarized as that our sales rep experience low internet connectivity and they can't access some of our relevant content, or they need an overview of content which is missing in our current app. So understand those pain points. And the third and another most important thing is understand the technical possibilities and constraints. So for example, you need to build something that reflects your legacy app, but you also need to make it look modern. That would be a design challenge or a constraint. Or a technical possibility or limitation could be that we need only a native app, or we only need a cross-platform hybrid app. So these are the things we need to define in the understand phase. Then once everybody is on the same page with the understand phase, the next part is to define. So what do we define here? We need to define what is the key strategy and focus. What are we going to focus on in this particular sprint? And not generally about the product, but just about this particular sprint. The first thing would be a challenge statement. We need to be crystal clear on what the challenge is. So the challenge could be something like design an intuitive mobile experience for our sales rep using our app in the field. So that's the challenge. And to tie back to that, what is the outcome? What is going to be the outcome of this workshop? So let's really tightly focus on the workshop alone. So here we need to understand the outcome statement, and everybody needs to be on the same page with that. So some typical outcome statements of design sprints would go like, so we will come up with a pool of ideas and paper prototypes for the sales reps experience for our mobile app. So everybody knows that we are going to come up with ideas and paper prototypes or digital prototypes, so whatever the goal is, the outcome is. Which is also very important is that, what are the success metrics that we need to measure? So maybe it could be something like, it could be tangible or intangible, something like increased sales rep confidence when entering into meetings. So now it's really important to frame these things so that the entire team is in sync. Everybody has a consensus of what we are going to do. So once we understand these two steps and we into the sprint, what do we do? So when you're setting up your sprint, any sprint, not the first one, but any sprint really, what do you really need? First thing is a good understanding of the first two steps and good preparation for that. And then you need to gather and schedule the team, because teamwork is the basis of the success of this sprint. So who needs to be on the sprint? Who needs to be in this? Every key stakeholder. For example, it could be a business stakeholder or a client. It could be marketing team, engineering, management, design, and so on. So the key stakeholders of every team can be included. The ideal team size is about 5 to 8 people. So gather them and schedule their time. Make sure that they are available. Of course, gather the material, where since you're going to prototype, paper prototype, and sketch and do a lot of creative activities, you need to be prepared with a lot of stationery items like markers, sticky notes, A4 papers, notebooks, whiteboards, and things like that. And of course, you'll need to book a location. So if you're having a physical design sprint or at location design sprint, you need to book a suitable location where everybody is comfortable, the team can move around, there's enough space, and there are actual whiteboards. And if you're planning to have the sprint as an online session, you need to keep all the material ready in a collaborative tool and send the invites out to everyone. Now we've seen what we need to take care of before the sprint. Let's see what we can take care of during the sprint. So something that can easily astray the sprint is that losing a lot of time without coming up with a lot of solutions. So you need to time box activities and make them time bound so that you can use a timer for that, or something like an online timer or an actual stopwatch, so that everybody works in sync and everything finishes within time. You can keep the team moving, get more work done in less time, and churn out multiple concepts. Getting out a lot of concepts from a lot of different people is crucial here, since this is something where this is, I guess, the only time when all the team is going to be together in one room. So get those creative juices flowing in a time box session so that you have a lot of concepts. Plan for breaks and refreshments. Make sure that you give people enough time to check their email or take a break so that they don't lose focus when actually doing the activities. And then when you actually start the sprint, the first thing is that you're going to recap the available inputs. So for example, you have done, as a UX practitioner, as the sprint facilitator, you've done a lot of homework about the understand and define phase, but you need to recap it with everyone so that everyone reflects on it, everyone reads through it, and is ready to begin ideating. So you can recap business goals, user research, user problems, outcome statements as a team, keep everybody motivated, and then jump in. So now the fun part, the diverge part. This is where we explore as many ideas as possible. And how do we do it as a team? So there are a lot of diverging or divergent thinking techniques that you can use in this phase. And as a facilitator, you need to be aware of these techniques. There are many, many, many techniques which you can use, but you need to tailor those to the actual problem that you're solving. So it's not as easy as it sounds. There are many techniques, and you need to fit them to your needs. So divergent thinking means to come up with multiple creative solutions through different activities and techniques. So to give you an example, the first one is it could be card storming, where you as a team, everybody gets thick markers and post-it notes, and then you read out a problem statement and everybody writes down features they think would help those problems onto sticky notes, followed by everybody going and pasting those sticky notes and explaining what they mean. So like this, many creative ideas come up at this stage itself, and it becomes a feature palette for you to actually go ahead and start sketching, which is the next step. So you take the ideas from your card storming session, you group them, and then some themes start to emerge. What you can do is take pick up the best themes, and as an individual exploration activity, you sketch out alternative solutions for those using those themes. And believe me, this is a fun part. Teams come up with really, really creative solutions that a UX designer alone cannot come up with. So this is where you get multiple ideas, and then this is where you think it's a divergent thinking technique. So once you have like this wealth of ideas with you, the logical next step is you select the best ideas. And how do you do that? You do that again using a lot of convergent thinking techniques or refining techniques, or you could also say like the decide phase, where you critique and vote for the best ideas. So participants can or your team can paste their ideas on the walls. They could explain them, and again there are many techniques to get this done, but the most used one is like a storyboard, where they can sketch out the solutions, stick it on the on the wall, and then they can maybe explain it. People can reflect and vote on it. You can use two types of techniques to vote, maybe dot voting stickers, which you can see the green and blue ones, or the +1 technique, where everybody in the team will go and write +1 to the concepts that they have liked. So this way we are narrowing down, or zeroing down to a few solutions from the many solutions that we had. And then the logical next step is to prototype. The prototype step can be taken, it can even be taken out of the sprint if the time does not allow. But the responsibility of this step really lies with the UX designer or the UX consultant, since this step involves creating an artifact that you can test with the real users. It could be paper prototypes, it could be low or high fidelity prototypes that you can show of your concept. So these are some examples of wireframes that came out of a sprint that eventually went into testing. So now these are the 5 steps that go into a design sprint. Understand, define, diverge, decide, prototype, and validate. The validate step is where you take these designs, go back to the users, and get their feedback. So then what happens when you don't really have a physical location for your sprint, or your team is scattered globally? They are not co-located. What happens? Would you miss out on this design sprint, the benefits of sprint? No. So what we would do is we would conduct remote design sprints. And what is that, and how do we go about doing that? So like a quick explanation of that is that remote design sprints are very good to solve design problems when teams are not co-located or they are scattered globally. You can use many online collaboration tools to get the team together for a remote sprint. Some very good examples of remote collaboration tools for design sprint would be Mural, there's real-time board, or then there's Hangouts. So there are multiple ways, or there's like create a Slack group and talk through, and then design on an online whiteboard. Lot of different techniques where you can conduct remote design sprints. So these are some of the screens that are from a tool called real-time board, and this is where this is how the online design sprint looks. So it's possible even if people are not co-located, and it's as effective if run properly. So now that we've seen what to do before the sprint, during the sprint, let's see what are the important steps that you cannot miss out on after the sprint. First and foremost, everything that happens in the sprint room, while it is fresh in your mind, it's important to document those inputs from everyone. This is the responsibility of the facilitator, or you would say the UX practitioner, since this person really knows everything that came out, and this person can carry all the physical artifacts out of the room, go back to the desk and carefully digitize them and store them and analyze all the artifacts. So all ideas can be stored for later reference. This is also a good time to make a list of everything that we decided we wanted to build. Also mark items which are MVP. So for example, priority 1, priority 2, 3, and so on. So nothing is lost. Maybe items that are in priority 3 or like a parking lot would be something that you can address later, if not immediately. So you need to document your inputs. And really, one really important thing is to follow up. So when you're in a sprint, everybody is really excited to churn out a lot of ideas, and they are like uh, very happy to do that, and they are really creative, and they want to do based on that their interaction there. But then what happens is everything falls through the cracks when the sprint is done. So you need to follow through and see that the entire design and development process, design decisions that you made during the sprint, and the testing, the feedback from testing are translated into the actual product that gets built and shipped. So follow through meticulously. Need to do after the sprint. So we at MindBrowser have helped help these products evolve with the help of design sprints. Any help? So that is all I wanted to cover today. I hope it gave everyone design sprints and how to set up your own sprint. If you need help or need to talk to us, feel free to get in touch with us via email. Contact details are here on the screen. Our website is www.mindbrowser.com. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.